Good morning, everyone. We are just getting used to this technology. I just tried to introduce the webinar there and then got an automated voice. So I hope you can all hear us well. If you have any issues, technical issues, if you click on the chat function, then you should be able to get to correspond with my friend and colleague Michelle McHugh, who is at the end of that chat function. My name's Gordon Main. I'm a consultant with Celsius and I'm part of the CERC Planning Committee, and I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Gary Brown and Katrina Nugent, who are going to be presenting this webinar, Language That Cares. Gary and Katrina will introduce themselves shortly. The webinar is a part of our CERC 2020 online series, and we have a number of different webinars and resources that you're able to use and to share with your colleagues or discuss with people that you're working with. The CERC conference itself is in its 21st year, and for very obvious reasons we're not able to come together, we're not able to be in the same room debating, discussing, sharing a coffee, having a hug, and we miss all of those things. But it's so important that we're able to replicate some of that with online discussion, and we're delighted that you can join us in this discussion. We've got lots of advantages in doing things virtually. You can do this from, with colleagues in your workplace. You can do it from home, and we've got people joining us from home from different continents and different hemispheres, which would be quite unusual for a physical conference. So very welcome from people from Scotland, from England, and from much wider afield. We want to make sure that anything that we offer in this online series helps us to connect, to support one another, to stimulate and to inspire. And I think you'll find that Gary and Katrina offered that to us today. And I'll say something in a wee moment about how we all interact on this webinar. The title for the conference is The Extraordinary Ordinary, the Power of Everyday Care. And that's the same title that we were going to do with a face-to-face physical conference in Glasgow in June. So we've stuck with those themes and really apply to now to the circumstances we find ourselves in, and to the extraordinary lengths that the residential workforce and those that live in residential care have gone to cope with current circumstances. We are in a time of great reform in care and in residential care and in all children's services, and we've just had the independent care review, which was built on the voices of care experience, and you'll hear so much of that in the webinar today from Katrina and from Gary, and the work that they've done with Fun Young Individuals. From the independent care review, we had the promise, and we've all signed up to deliver on that promise, and it says some things to us about language. It says that children must be listened to and meaningfully and appropriately involved, and Gary and Katrina are going to explore the impact of language in relation to that. They're going to share the work that they've done with Fun Young Individuals, and they're going to consider the part that language plays in meaningfully involved in children in their own care and making sure that care really does care. So I'm going to come back to you just in a few minutes just to share some technical things that will help you to take part in the webinar, but I'm going to pass over to Gary and Katrina now, and a very warm welcome, guys. Michelle's just getting up some slides for us, and then Gary will take it from there.
I just want to check, hi there, I just want to check that people can see my screen.
Yeah, that's visible now. Gary, yes.
Great stuff. Thank you for that, Gordon. So my name's Gary Brown. I'm a corporate parents and youth worker, and helping me do this session today is Katrina Nugent, who's a member of the FYI group. And Katrina's going to talk in a little bit about what the FYI group does and a bit about her involvement. But my job's all about working with care experienced young people and trying to encourage their voices to be heard by people who are involved in making decisions that affect them. A lot of what we do is raise awareness of care experience in corporate parenting. We often do this through project work, presentations, delivering workshops like the one we're doing today. So welcome to the workshop, and as Gordon said, he's going to talk a little bit about some of the technical parts of the session.
Okay, thanks a lot, Gary. For those of you that know me, I'm not a very technical person, so hopefully these instructions will be in language that's really helpful for you and makes sense to me. But as you know, we can't see or hear you, which is unusual for a workshop, but we would love to see your questions and comments. So to do that, you click on the question mark on your screen rather than the chat function. So it's important that you use the question mark, and you click on that and type in your comment or your question, and they'll come to us, and I'll be able to feed them into Gary and Katrina, so your direct questions can influence the session. We'd really appreciate if you do that throughout the session rather than wait to be prompted. So if there's something that you hear or see and you think, you know, I've got something to say about that, we want to make this as interactive as possible. So just fire away. You can also raise your hand. There's a function on the screen where you can raise your hand. I mentioned that earlier, and Michelle will be able to respond to you if you need some assistance. We can't actually offer any technical support during the session, but we will be recording this. We won't be recording any of you. It's just myself, Gary and Katrina and our voices, and that will then be available for you to share if you find this useful to share with colleagues or to use in any way that you choose, or if you're not able to take part in the whole session, to watch the end of it later. There's a couple of, so there'll be a poll partway through the session, and in the chat function probably on the right hand side of your screen, depending on which version you're using, there's a number there. If you want to be involved in that poll, then if you can text the word Celsius, CELCIS, in advance of that poll, that will mean that you're more quickly able to take part in it. So there's a number on the screen in the chat, and those instructions will come up again when the poll happens. I think that's all for now. Michelle can interrupt me otherwise, but I think that's all you guys need to know. And unless Michelle comes back in, I'll pass back to Gary and Katrina. Michelle says that's fine. So over to you guys.
So, as Gary says, I'm Katrina. I was one of the first young people to actually help start the group. And some of the work we do in FYI is about corporate parenting. This is all about encouraging better outcomes for care experienced young people. Examples of care are foster care, kinship care, residential care, and being looked after at home. Corporate parenting is about listening to young people and making changes that impact on their life. It is about working with care experienced young people, and it's all about compassion. This workshop has been co-produced by many young people from the Fun Young Individuals. also known as FYI group. The FYI group is obviously all care experienced young people who meet weekly. Obviously, due to COVID, that's been a bit of an issue, but we've been managing to go out and meet in the park and stuff, so that's good. Part of what the group are trying to do is aim to make positive change in the relevant services. There will also be references to swearing in the workshop. It is not meant to cause any offence whatsoever.
So, if we are going to think about transforming lives with passion and compassion, which I would hope you'd all agree that's what our work's about, we need to know the people we are working with. The relationship is crucial. We need to be person-centred. We need to think about how we as staff communicate with the people we work with. We need to think about what we say, when we say it, and where we say it. What is the impact of the language we use in the company of the people we work with? So just a little bit of background, the SSSC codes of practice state that staff should communicate in an open, appropriate, accurate and straightforward way. And in the care review, which Gordon mentioned, under voice it says, when children speak, adults must really listen to them. So I think it just proves that that sort of basic communication is at the heart of everything that we're trying to do. So when we started doing these workshops in Perth, this was happening in Belfast. So Michelle's going to show us a film now.
You feel like you're just like someone's job.
I was 6 whenever I first started. I was like, what am I lacking in? Like, is there something wrong with me? Am I lacking in something? Is that why I've been removed from my mum's house?
It just makes you feel like very low because it sounds like you're lacking and stuff.
The term I would like to use would be young person, because I am a young person. That's just it.
It would make the young person feel like they can understand it better and be able to explain it better to people.
What I don't like about the word placement is it doesn't make you feel like you're at home.
Why can it just not be called a place that I am going to live, my home or my living accommodation? I don't see it why it should be somewhere that I'm placed.
It sort of makes a young person feel as if they have to grow up faster.
Like, it would make you feel less frustrated, as then you don't feel like you're just being placed somewhere and dropped off and left.
I wouldn't feel comfortable telling my mates that I'm going to contact to see my family.
In a way, it did bring a barrier between me and friends because I wouldn't have told them I was going for contact.
I think a better word to be used other than contact would be family time.
Normal families would have family time. So we all decided that family time was more appropriate than contact, and it explained it better on what it was.
So Michelle's just going to return this to the slides. I thought it's probably important just to point out to people that are coming from out with Northern Ireland or Scotland that the term LAC, LAC, stands for looked after child, and that's what some of the children were referring to and using the expression lacking. Sorry, Gary, I'll pass back, or Katrina, I'll pass back over to you guys.
So you'll see on the screen a handful of words. How many of you use these words?
So Michelle's put up a quick poll there, and we're asking you just to answer yes or no to that poll. And if you could just do that just now, we'll see what our audience are saying. And this will obviously just take a few moments for you to input and then for your results to come up. This is the first time that that we've had the opportunity to present in this kind of way with this workshop. So here, Gary and Katrina, we've got a poll result, a quick poll result coming up. So 71% of respondents said, people that are on the webinar said that they have found themselves using these words often. And 29% no.
Okay. Okay, so what we'd like you to do now is think about what these words mean to you. If you could maybe just think of one word and an explanation of what it actually means to you, that would be great. And if you could share that in the comments box, and we'll maybe pick up on a couple of comments made. So that's just one word and an explanation of what it means in your context. That would be great.
Great. Thanks, Gary. And those comments will come through in a few moments as well. We do have a comment, and thanks from Erin McGuigan. Erin said that she found the video very powerful. I agree, Gary. I think the young people there were offering some solutions in what they were saying. So let's see if there's some comments coming through from the audience. There'll be a natural lag in this, so bear with us as we wait for your comments to come through. Patrick and Jordan and Martha spoke a great deal about what in the video about what the words meant to them. The kind of Martha in particular, with the lack word, what am I lacking? Is this all my fault? So we've got a response from Joseph Gallagher. Thanks, Joseph. Joseph commenting that it all feels like professional language. And Sarah, she's talking about caseload. She thinks that thinks about work, not about a person. That's helpful.
Yep.
Yeah. We'll see if there's one or two more comments come through. Emma Allen, respite sounds like time to recover from something. Yeah, thanks, Emma. We had we've got Robin Dallas Childs, respite for whom and for what? Double question mark. So Robin's really curious about the use of that word. We also had a question about the language that social workers use, and others will use different language as well. So the question is, do you think it is helpful for children and young people to use the language of social workers in panels, or should social workers and others in the system change their language to reflect the reality of young people's lives?
Good point.
And maybe just another comment from Samantha. Samantha's asking, Even Stand Up for Siblings. So that's for those out with the UK Stand Up for Siblings. It's a kind of campaign group, a coalition of people that want to ensure that children can regularly see, if they're not, they can be placed, sorry, they can live with their brothers and sisters where possible, and where that's not possible, that they have regular and meaningful contact with them. So Samantha's pointing out that even that group uses the term siblings. Should we just be using brothers and sisters?
Yep. Gordon, if I can maybe ask another question that even while there's comments coming in, it maybe people could think about.
Yeah.
The young people from the FY group who developed this session, they have an issue with the words on the screen just now. So if people have any thoughts about why they think that is, although maybe some of that's kind of came from what people have said already, but the young people in Perth, they specifically wanted to speak about these words just now. So.
Yes. And whilst we've been speaking, I used the term contact. So it's something that it's just become a kind of a shorthand for us, hasn't it? Gary, respite is another one that's the point been made by Rupert McCranor. Respite makes young people feel like a burden that carers or families need a break from. And Liz Mitchell, people might know Liz from the Love Inc. project. I'm assuming it's the same Liz. She says there's no warmth, no sign of the person that is referring to.
Yep.
A couple more comments. I'll just share these, and then you might want to wrap them up together,
okay.
Gary and Katrina. So Tracy Taylor is saying siblings remind me of wider families and communities the young people live in before, and how we need to embrace this for all our young people. So just the importance of those relationships. William Todd says this is about processes rather than person's experiences. And Jilly Ballantyne, a lot of the words are ingrained into organisations, as you just heard me using, including siblings, which is unnecessary when brothers and sisters can so easily be used in its place. So some really straightforward kind of responses to your question there.
That's brilliant. Thank you for everybody for taking the time to do that there. So, I'm going to move on.
This is some of what the young people have said just from our group in FYI from Perth. Please don't take anything offensively. Again, it would be great to see any comments you have as we share the young people's quotes.
Okay, so Katrina, I think you're looking for people to share
Yeah.
their thinking on what you just presented there. The really powerful statements from young people. So again, I
Yeah.
can see that people are starting to pop that in the question box. Will I share some of that with you and Gary?
Yeah, that'd be
Yep.
great.
So I just wanted to capture before, while people are being able to respond to that, Moira Hawthorne, one of my colleagues, also shared that respite. So going back to that term respite, that was actually discouraged as a term in the Scottish Government document in 2002 involving disabled young people. And respite came up in the slides that you shared there, didn't it? And in the comments from the audience today. Respite, siblings, systems. So in language, language is more than just spoken language as well, isn't it? There'll be some young people that are perhaps non-verbal, or you know, can't pick up the same cues as other children. So it's also how we communicate and not just what we say. So Erin McGuigan wanted to share that all of these things, you know, they don't really reflect a young person's personality. Charmaine Edwards, this language is too formal and not inclusive for young people. We all need to use child-friendly language to really to be really child-centered. And Charmaine goes on to say this language is making young people feel different to other young people who live at home. Although we are trying to be child-focused, this language is actually discriminating or looked after young people. A comment from Leslie Snedden. She says, it's breaking my heart, the damage we're all doing to the young people who need us most. And of course, it's important to remember that, that there'll be some very, you know, incredibly positive and caring examples of language as well.
Yeah.
Joanne McMaking, Joanne chairs the CERT conference. Joanne says, thanks for this and very powerful. I can see why young people think supervised contact makes them sound dangerous. This is a stark reminder to us all. Sarah Daly adds, very powerful. The use of these negative terms clearly impact on the relationship between worker and young person. Are they kind of similar comments to when you have people in a room together, Katrina and Gary?
I would say so. I would say so, definitely.
I would definitely agree with that.
It's actually really powerful for me. I'm finding this really powerful that I can't see anybody, and just hearing you saying those comments, Gordon, from everybody who's taken part. That's finding that, and that would be a different situation if this was face to face.
And we'll have a record of this, so we can use this. There's a further comment there from Tracy Taylor. The impact of our language is so powerful. We need to remember the impact of this. Apologies, the chat just changed there. We need to remember the impact of this. We can change this to be more positive. It can make such a difference to everyone. And Karen Turner McLean adds, absolutely. Valid thoughts. We need to listen, acknowledge and adjust accordingly in everyday interactions with young people and other professionals. So a real call to action there, guys. Thanks so much for these comments.
It's powerful to hear all the comments. I think something I would just like to add in about when we were putting this together, and we based it around the words that young people spoke to us about. The person who said, when I said to him, do you know, is there any words or phrases that are used around you that you hate? It was the person that said, I effing hated being called a caseload.
Yeah.
But what I thought was huge, when he was saying that back to me, he clenched his fists in a, you know, he wasn't like angry at me asking. but obviously the physical, like seeing the physical reaction in him, just when he was saying that to me, spoke volumes, and that was obviously just more than the words he was saying. It was him just reliving that. I could see anger, and I could see hurt. So, and that's obviously stuck with him, because he said it as soon as I asked. It's like he knew I was going to ask it, and he just. So that was powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. I can. You're painting pictures with words there, Gary. We've got a couple of really interesting comments around the how do we support the workforce to make change, and I know that you're going to talk about some of that. We've got a comment from Joseph Gallagher. He says this language is used to meet the communication needs of the professionals, not the young people. And then William Todd goes on to say long-standing workers have commented about how difficult it is to change language they've used for years.
We have had that before, where a social worker, she'd been in social work for 43 years, I think it was, Gary.
Yeah.
And we actually had not a debate or anything, it was just a discussion about her views and, like, obviously our views on what's been, from myself as a young person, what she was saying to me. And we just had a conversation about how, yes, she's been in the social work for 43 years, but when the laws and like change, she changes to that. But all we're saying is, we're not saying don't use this language. Like, obviously when you're writing reports and stuff like that, that's fair enough. But when you're speaking to young people or speaking around young people, we think that there should be more, not child friendly, but less professional jargon, corporate jargon.
Yep.
Because it's, you sit there as a young person thinking, I don't know what that word means, and it sits and it picks at you all the way through that meeting until you can find out what that means. And then when you find out, you're most likely to be alone because you don't want to ask anybody. And she kind of took a step back and went, oh, I kind of see where you're coming from now. And it's just about having conversations with people and just putting everyone's views on the table and having a conversation about how we can change things and make it better.
Yeah.
Yep. Katrina, I think you hit the nail on the head there when you said, and it's why we're doing this. It's the people, staff using language around young people or with the young people, but then I think that obviously ties into report writing and everything as well. What's happened in Perth is that our review team have started working with us because and it was through doing this workshop, and it sparked something in with the team. So they came back to us and said, we want to relook at our paperwork and just like all documentation, and just, if it says case, could it say person? If it says, could words be changed? So we're starting to work with that team to just, they're going to be sending over like some of their paperwork, and we're just as the FY group are just going to sit and they'll say, this is what we think is better, this is what we think is a more positive thing, and just and hopefully that'll spark, it'll inspire other teams to do similar things as well. It's about change, but it's about, change doesn't always happen quickly, and it's about those steps before it, and about having discussions, doing workshops like this, and trying to move things on for everyone. So
yeah,
I
I've
suppose
got a couple of extra. Have you got time for a couple of extra comments from the audience? You want to?
Yeah, what would maybe be good if I ask another question, Gordon, but then we've got these ones that are waiting to be discussed as well.
Great. Yeah, go ahead, Gary.
And I suppose it's the next question that the young people wanted everybody to think about is any issues for practitioners? Is there any barriers we need to overcome to do this? And I suppose this is starting to be discussed now anyway, but so if people can think about that as well, and if we could maybe discuss the comments that are coming up just now.
Yeah. So any barriers to practitioners or anyone in the workforce to changing the language that they use,
Yeah.
and also what some of the solutions might be.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, brilliant. So while people are responding to that, we've got an interesting question from Mel Gosling. Mel's asking, what does the Fun Young Individuals group feel are the lasting effects of this language? So Katrina, you spoke really eloquently there about what happens in the moment. You know, if you're in a meeting and you feel really disempowered by people using language that really means nothing to you, that's a real barrier for you. But what have the group discussed the kind of lasting effects of this kind of language?
I mean, personally, from my point of view, I've been going to meetings since I was about 11 years old. I'm now 20. I can remember pretty much every single one of the meetings that I sat in thinking I was confused, thinking, why are they saying these things about me? Because they were using corporate jargon and I didn't understand it fully. I just knew one like meaning behind it. Like, you know how words have more than one meaning behind it?
Yeah.
I sat there thinking of that one thing that I was like, I thought it was, but it also meant something else. But I can remember a lot of things that were said to me and around me. I remember walking at a social work building at the age of 13, 14, and there was two workers standing in the office, and I was waiting for my social worker to go and get me, and they were like, "Oh, I have a lot of caseloads going on, and they're trying to give me more caseloads, and I just want it all to stop." Now, for a 13, 14-year-old to be hearing these things, had it been anybody else, they probably would have kicked off. But I mean, I've always had a level head of I can see things from both sides. And I said to them, I was like, do you know what I mean? Young people, and that's young people's lives you're talking about. And they went, oh, we didn't realise anybody was here. So for me, it's quite a good example to use, because again, not them talking to young people all the time. It's when they aren't aware of the surroundings and young people are around.
Yeah, that's a really powerful example. Gary, sounds like you're wanting to come in there.
Yeah, I suppose just as a group over the years, the FY group have debated many things and been involved in lots of consultations and discussions. I think the long term effect that I see as somebody who's not care experience but works with care experience young people and cares a lot about everything that's going on in their lives and moving things forward. I think what you don't want to happen is there to be resentment unnecessarily with young people and social work staff or educational staff or whoever. But from I think a lot of the consultation that we've done, I feel like there is quite a lot of sort of the young people feeling quite a lot of negative feelings because of a lot of the time very basic language things are and just things being said that could have been said differently, and often I think it's just sometimes and this is just my take on it, maybe a lack of people just being as person-centered as they could be.
Yeah.
So I would say, you know, I think you want young people and staff to work together and for there not to be barriers and walls. So the less that we can do, the less on a short-term kind of context and a long-term context for people, I would say.
That feels really important, Gary, and certainly at CERC we're really committed to sort of encouraging what can change, much more so than necessarily looking back and thinking that this is all wrong. That there are certain things that we absolutely do need to change. And so you asked for some challenges and some solutions from the audience, and we're getting a couple of things. We're getting some really nice stuff on Twitter. The hashtag for that is hashtag CERC 2020. You can follow a lot of stuff around the whole CERC 2020 on that, including how to join other events. But we're also getting on Twitter some real support for what you're both saying. In terms of some of the solutions that people are presenting, Robin Dallas Child saying that there needs to be a bigger overall shift of language. For example, supervision for practitioners can often use cases or caseloads as a heading, so changing language across the board is needed. We have Charmaine Edwards talking about her own experience as a team leader in residential childcare. She says that she uses positive language within her houses, and this is filtering through to her staff teams. So referring to units as houses, a basic example, but an important one. And the houses are all, the staff within the houses are all very aware of the language that they use, that it's respectful, supportive, and that team leaders can influence that culture of language change. So Gary, I'll just share a couple of other kind of positives. Tracy Taylor suggesting constant conversation and challenging language. I think some of the barriers are keeping the impact at the forefront of our mind. So, perhaps a recording of what you guys are saying is useful for teams. Joseph Gallagher, he says he loves the idea of a dictionary of terms. He's coming back to say this doesn't need massive resources, but a realization. So a kind of light bulb moment for people, I guess, that's what Tracy's saying. And Mel Gosling want to say thank you to you, Katrina, for being so honest. This has really helped him to want to push. Sorry, I'm assuming Mel's male. Mel might be female. It really helped push them forward with their cause. Emma Allen does refer to some barriers, shifting from the formal structure of meetings to a child or young person-centred approach. But with solutions, use children and young people to help train our workforce to reinvent the structures of meetings and the way reports are written. If people are interested in that, there's also a webinar next week on recording practice, and you can find that on the Celsius website or on hashtag CERC 2020 if you have time and want to take part in that. And finally, sorry, I'm talking a lot here, guys. Moira Hawthorne, children and young people's lives are splintered across different systems: social work, education, health and legal. So we need a change across the system. That's really important to remember, isn't it? It's not just about residential childcare or social workers.
No, definitely. It's a bigger thing than that. So that's a brilliant point to make.
In Perth, when we have our corporate parenting meetings with heads of the council and different third sector parties, we have somebody from SCRA, from the Scottish Hearing, I'm not sure the other words, but from the Scottish Hearing Panel system, and they are very open to us going in and speaking to them about it. They approached us at the last face-to-face meeting we had, and they're very interested in what we're doing, and they want to be involved in that, and anything that we think they could do, they want to hear about it.
So it's important to have that local leadership as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
definitely.
people have to want to make change. like professionals and obviously the young people.
Brilliant. I noticed you've got a question there, Gary. There's one other comment I can share
Okay.
before you move to that. It's William Todd talking about an experience of one of his fellow workers writing a report about a young person that they were very proud of. William struggled with some of the language and suggested to them that they rewrote the report and sit with the young person to do that. And he feels that that produced a much more accurate reflection of that individual and a much better use of language. That's a really positive example.
Definitely. I suppose something I just wanted to say, Gordon, just to kind of echo what Katrina was talking about from a local context for us, what's been really good is that we first did the normal version of this workshop maybe a year or so ago at a social work conference in Perth, but we've then been asked to do it in lots of different contexts with sort of educational colleagues, and we did it recently with a room full of our elected members one of them had been at one of the earlier ones, so they got their colleagues together. So I think that it's really good, and it ties into that comment that was made just a wee while ago about it being a broader thing than a social work thing. Definitely, the language that we use, that everybody uses, is important. So it's kind of nice that we're working on that.
Absolutely. Tracy Taylor's backing you up there. She thinks that reviewing officers, children's hearings and others would benefit from a language input. Apologies, guys, if I haven't been able to ask every question or comment, and we'll find a way of capturing some of that so that we can share more widely. There's some absolutely brilliant points and comments, and it's obviously striking a chord with a lot of people, Katrina and Gary. If you have additional questions that you want Gary and Katrina to respond to at the end, we will have some time to do that as well. So please do add further questions.
And I'll share our contact details as well, so that even after the workshop's finished, if anybody wants to get in touch with us about anything, they'd be more than welcome to do that.
Brilliant, that's really kind.
Okay, we just move on.
Do you think that you will think more about the words you're using and the phrases after this session, like whenever you're with a young person or around a young person?
So again, I think if people put their thoughts in the comments box, I'm going to move on to another slide, but then Gordon, maybe if you could pick up on any comments that are made.
Yeah, and I think, Gary, if so you're asking people, sorry, Katrina's asking people if there's anything they would do differently in relation to that, but it might be that we're also speaking to some very enlightened people on this session, so it might be more about what they do with others.
Yeah.
So please do add that into the chat as well. Sorry to cut across you there, Gary.
Not at all. So just while you're thinking about that, I just want to share some wise words. Nelson Mandela said, "If you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his language, that goes to his heart." Wise words. I would hope you would agree. So I suppose if we're going to build positive relationships with young people we work with, we need to speak to them in a language that makes sense in their world, not ours. This ties in with us trying to be person-centered and putting the young people at the center of everything we do. So Gordon, I don't know if any kind of thoughts or points have been raised about the last question that we raised. That'd be great to talk about that now.
Yeah, so So some of the comments coming through are, it's nice that, they're broad ranging and they're referring to previous questions as well as your most recent one.
Yeah.
So just to nip back for a moment, Kaylee Nisbet saying that a barrier is that different organisations or localities are using different terms. This makes it difficult to make changes overall. It needs to be across the board. Robin Dallas Childs saying that schools have a lot to learn here, so just reinforcing that point that it's a multi-agency approach. We also we had Erin McGuigan from Aberlour saying that adults use language that young people are comfortable with. I think by that she means that the adults that work within residential care, but we find within the wider community people are not using more child-friendly language. So it's a broad approach to this. Neil Gentleman, who comes from the Care Inspectorate, saying that as someone from the outside often looking in on the experiences of young people, this is a really helpful reminder to tune into the language that young people themselves use. And I think we got a hint of that from the video from Belfast, didn't we? And from the slides that you shared earlier, Katrina.
Yeah.
Sorry, carry on, Katrina. Okay, Kaylee Nisbet, it would make me think how to get teachers and professionals to refer to young people regarding their staff in residential, as this makes them stand out. So that's a bit about, perhaps feeling stigmatised because of their care experience. William Todd suggesting changes to headings of paperwork to change with our language, so not just changing how we think, but also some of the kind of administration and the support for that language change.
Yeah.
There's lots and lots coming in here, Gary. I'll finish with this one. Mel Gosling saying, I always try to use the child's actual name in all recording. Writing logs like letters, as they'll get to see these in the future. So that sounds like a very personal approach to that, person-centred approach. That's the last of the comments for now, Gary.
Thank you very much for that. And again, thank you for everybody. It's overwhelming, all the comments that have been made. It's fantastic.
Is this me, Gary?
Yes.
Yeah. We would like to appreciate you for sharing all the thoughts you've all had on the workshop. Please feel free to write anything in the comments box.
So yeah, maybe that's just that kind of broader question about what people have thought of the workshop or anything. We're just coming to the end of it, so if anybody's got kind of maybe broader points they want to make or things that can help us. We've never done this virtually before, so this is the first time we've ever done it like this. So any critique of what we've done would be fantastic and appreciated.
Yeah, and I would echo that as well, Gary. Would really appreciate you guys. You're actually the first webinar that we've done as part of CIRC 2020 online, using this technology, and not having the luxury of being able to see people face to face and engage their responses. So a big thanks to the audience for responding in the way that they have, but also to Gary and Katrina, and by way of saying thanks, if you have some comments that would help them to tailor this in a way that's really going to have an impact, then that would be really appreciated. I believe, Gary, have we got one more activity around that would allow people to just put in one word around that?
Yep. So I don't know, we can move on to that now if you want.
Yeah, did that make sense? And I think Michelle just had to take over for a moment.
Yep.
So we're just would like to create a kind of word cloud around, and Michelle's just going to start that poll. So a slide will come up with some directions for how to take part in that. If you have your mobile phone handy, then so we're asking you. There's the slide up there. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this morning's session, as Gary and Katrina have asked you. Could you just share one word as your evaluation? And you can do that by either going to polev.com/Celsius, this at the top of the slide, or using your mobile phone, you can text the word Celsius to 07480 781 235, and then you'll get a message to say you've joined that, and you just send one word. You just text in one word. So whichever's more convenient for you, either using the polev.com/Celsius or the mobile number 07480 781 235. And once we get a few responses, we'll see, and we'll have something for Katrina and Gary to take away with them. So we've got our first word coming in, and that's a belter. It's motivational.
Super.
I think I can sense that of inspiring. Katrina and Gary, can you see this as it
We
evolves?
can't see this. No, this is great.
Well, I'll duck out and I'll let you respond to some of the words that you're seeing.
I think for the purposes of everything that we're trying to do, this is exactly the words that we would love to hear. And as we've said, the fact that we want to do more, we're going to have to do more virtual work. So we'll be doing more of these in Perth, and it's quite nice we've done this nationally virtually before we've done it locally virtually. So it's really helpful. All the comments, and the fact that we're going to be able to go and look back at all the comments and hear everything that's been said is really, really helpful. So I personally can't thank people enough for how involved they've got in this session. And yeah, just seeing these words come up is magic to watch. Powerful. If it's powerful, then hopefully it's done its job. And then again, for us, in Perth, this is what we can take back to the young people as well. So although it's only me and Katrina here today, we can share all of this with all of the FYI group, and hopefully they'll appreciate that. But Katrina, I don't know what you think about all these words coming up.
I think it's amazing, and I think when we show the group what's being said, they're going to be grateful that they feel like they're making change, because it's genuine words coming from you, whereas normally they don't really get to hear this part of things like this, because not all of them do these sorts of things. Some of them just come for the social aspect, which is obviously quite okay, but it's nice to know that when they've put something out there that they're getting feedback, and things like it's making them making you feel powerful and driven and encouraging, and all these sorts of things, like all these sorts of ways. They're just gonna, and I know about a handful of them that are gonna be like, yes, that's what we want. This is exactly what we've been aiming for.
Great. I think as well, Katrina, that normally we can come back from doing something like this in real life and people go, how was it? And we'd go, yeah, it was good. And we'd say a little bit about it. Whereas one of the benefits of doing it like this is we can show them the whole thing. That's there's one of the benefits of doing this and it being recorded and all that. People can just look at it at their leisure as well.
So for those of you that haven't seen a word cloud before, I'm sure this is self-evident, but the bigger the word is, it means that it's more often has been used. So powerful is right at the heart of that. And you can see words like inspiring, change, and driven as well. So thank you so much for contributing to that. But before we finish off, there are just a few more comments coming in from the audience, Katrina and Gary, and they're most of them are thanks. So I think it's well worth me sharing them with you. William Todd says, thanks for this. I'll ensure to continue to drive forward change in my house. I've enjoyed hearing all the comments around the use of language. Emma Allen says, very powerful, and so I'm just going to share my webcam. Very powerful and much needed across all the services in Scotland and for everyone who works, lives and plays with our young people. Liz Mitchell, you have done a fantastic job, all of you. I think this format of doing the workshop virtually is really powerful as you're focusing on the words and language we use. That's helpful to know. Erin McGuigan, a question for you, Katrina. Did anyone ever take time? So I'll read you this question. I'll give you a chance to think about it, and then we'll come back to you. Did anyone ever take time to explain the language used within meetings in a more child-friendly way? So we'll come back to that. Laura Findleton, really powerful, but also simple when you think about it. Back to treat people who you would want to be treated. So yeah. Mel Goslin, didn't know what to expect, but feel really inspired and would like to know how to motivate this in my area. That's great to hear.
Brilliant.
Robin Dallas Child, final comment. Thanks all, a really important topic and very well delivered. The format works. That's great to know.
Magic.
So maybe Gary, if you get any final words, and then Katrina can, if she wants to, can respond to that question, and then I'll close the session. Anything you want to add, Gary?
I would just, I think this has been fantastic. I'm delighted with the way it's worked out. I'm really grateful, and the young people will be really grateful for the input from everybody. And I would, I suppose, like to offer if anybody wants to get in touch with us about this workshop, or about the FY group, or about corporate parenting in Perth and Kinross, or anything, just, please get in touch. The more connectivity happening over Scotland and over the rest of the world, especially at this time, the better. So we're just happy to work with others following on from this as well.
Fantastic. That's so generous, Gary. Thanks, and thanks so much for your time, your and Katrina's time, and putting this together, and the group. Please do thank them. And Katrina, we said we would come back to you. Are you okay to respond to Erin's question? So she was asking, has anyone ever taken time to explain the language used within meetings in a more child-friendly way?
Never. Nobody has ever sat down with me and explained what certain things mean. I've always either done it myself, or every report I have received since I was about 10, 11 years old, I have read page for page every word, and I've probably read it about 3 times for every report. And since I was about 12, 13, I turned around and said to my social workers, I was like, do you know what? I had enough for them that day. I'd had a big fallout with them because they'd tried saying stuff that wasn't true, and I asked them to take it out of the report, and they wouldn't. But I said to them, I was like, see, one day I'm going to be a social worker, and I'm going to do a better job than everyone in this building put together. And they were too happy with it, I'm not even gonna lie. But when I look at it, I did this on my own, and I'm a level-headed person, whereas not everybody has the same mentality as me. Not everybody has I'll just look at it myself. They have do you know what, if they're not going to tell me, then I'm not going to bother. What's it anyway? They make the decisions anyway. That's some young person's views, because obviously in FYI we all speak together, and we all put our views out, or we have private conversations on one-to-one, whether it being two young people just having a conversation because they need that. And a lot of people find it easy to talk to me. I don't know why.
I think everybody
but
listening probably do.
everybody kind of comes to me and they'll say a few things, and all these things build up in my head for times like these, because I can only give you my point of view, but then when they're speaking to me, if I'm taking on board what they're saying, and I remember it, and it's like a little book that's stored up, and it's just piling up and piling up. But other young people have come at me asking me, going, I'm 14 years old, I don't know what these words mean, and nobody's telling me. And I've gone, well, do you want me to tell you what they mean, or would you like me to speak to your worker and get them to speak to you about it? What would you like me to do? And they're like, well, what's the point anyway? And I was like, well, there's a point, because there's some part of that that's affecting you, that's upsetting you, because you're not being involved in what's going on. You don't know what these words mean. Nobody's thinking to even ask you if you know what they mean. And you obviously keep it because you're speaking about it. And often go, oh, I never, no, but I don't care. And I'm like, but you do, because it's your life. You still want control of it, but you just feel like you have none.
Katrina, can I just jump in there? I think what I would like to say, and what I witness all the time at the FY group and in lots of group work situations, is that you have some older young people like Katrina, and we've recently had a modern apprentice, Murren Dempster, who some people may know, who similarly to Katrina, kind of support in a lovely, natural way through just conversation, support the younger people in the way that Katrina's described. And it's really good that sometimes people look at our group where you've got people who are 14 and you've got people who are 21 in the group and go, how does that work? And it works because of what Katrina's just said there. I think people like Katrina who are confident, intelligent, articulate, and just understand possibly where people are coming from. They're the best people to help way more than somebody like myself. So it's really powerful to watch when Katrina's doing that kind of thing, and other young people. But it's the most important thing. And I think, again, in Perth and Kinross, what we've been doing is having like modern apprentices who are care experienced, who work in our staff team, so that we have an authentic voice of care experienced young people involved in the whole process of all that happening. It's utterly crucial. And again, why this workshop's all based around the language. It's not based around workers' thoughts and opinions. It's just in a simple way based around young people's thoughts. So Katrina's amazing at all that kind of stuff. So I salute her.
You're both amazing, and I'd just really like to thank you for not just for this workshop, but just for that example at the end there of Katrina. You're the power and the advocacy that you bring to others. It's just hats off to you, and you might never know the difference that you make to other people's lives. Carry on doing that. It's fantastic. I really want to thank you so much for taking part in the workshop. We weren't at all sure what to expect from our audience or how this technology is working, but we've got some really nice comments on Twitter again, and this is the techie bit. It's hashtag Circ 2020. Please go on there. You'll find some notification of when this video is available to watch as a recorded video. You'll also find other stuff around the Circ 2020 online, including and related to this a webinar next week about recording practice. I think that's next Thursday, but you can check that on the website or on Twitter. I want to thank Michelle McHugh as well, just for her support in the background. It was really appreciated. Thanks to all of you for taking part. I hope this has been helpful, and we'll leave it at that. Thanks again, Gary and Katrina.
You're welcome.
Take care,
Thank you
guys.
for.
All the best. See you soon.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.